Hello and welcome back to episode 203 of the Aluminum Audible podcast. This is your host, Jared Thomas, joined as always by my fellow champion, co-host Adrian Bermudez. We are here to recap UTSA's second consecutive Conference USA championship over the hated North Texas Mean Green. Roadrunners pulling out the win 48-27 in convincing fashion. Feels damn good, Adrian. How are you feeling, man?
Beautiful intro. I couldn't feel any better, especially after recovering from a little bit of championship hangover action on Saturday. But hey, to be back-to-back champion, you got to party like a back-to-back champion. And sure enough, San Antonio did. San Antonio showed up. The Alamodome showed out to bring UTSA back-to-back titles. And we mollywopped, whipped, destroyed, murdered those suckers. I mean, it was a complete mismatch. It was no contest. And I know that there were moments in that game where maybe the scoreboard indicated something different, but that was never the case when you were watching it. Ever since the very first drive, UTSA going downfield, we completely put it on those sucker from Mean Green, to put it in Jeff Traylor's words, those suckers from Denton, Texas. UTSA whips North Texas by more than, I guess it was 205 exactly total yards of offense, 21 more points, 15 and a half more minutes of game ball possession, of offensive possession, 2 turnovers to none. It was a total win. And we're just talking about the offensive stats besides the turnovers. I mean, we totally wrecked UNT, 10 ways to Sunday. It was a mismatch, Jared. And I think you really saw just how championship caliber this team is and how far ahead they are of even their own peers.
Don't forget, UTSA had 2 touchdowns called back by penalty and an interception that was negated by penalty as well.
Correctly. Yeah, one of those being a Frank Harris reception, which would have really given him the trifecta. But hey, we'll take 5 touchdowns from the MVP. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad you feel that way. I was debating with some friends, like, did you feel like kind of anxiety that UTSA was going to lose during that game? And personally, like, as soon as UTSA had that opening drive, it went up 7-0. I felt pretty dang good. Like, I really felt like UTSA was going to skate away with it. And they kind of ended up doing that. But a lot of people that I talked to were like, oh yeah, like once UNT took that 10-7 lead and they had what looked like was going to be a 99-yard touchdown run, it was like, oh, here we go again. Roadrunners going to play down to competition and not keep their foot on the gas, yada, yada, yada. But I think the depth won through for UTSA. But to me, my main takeaway from that game was how much more team speed UTSA had than North Texas. I think just the style of how the game played out with the defensive scheme that UNT used and kind of the play calling from UTSA, I think that speed difference really showed a lot more in this game than it did in that first meeting. North Texas seemed to just be giving up the flat, letting UTSA just throw it into the flat as much as they want. And UTSA's speed, I think, really was evident there. So many plays were just like a simple check down or like an out route, a hitch route, turned into like 8 to 12 yards for UTSA. And when you can make like low risk, high percentage throws like that get that many yards, it's really hard to lose a football game. And I think the playmakers that UTSA had just kind of surpassed North Texas. And that's not to say that UNT doesn't have some great players, but I think UTSA's depth, there was just more juice, more speed, deeper down in that roster than what UNT had.
He was really getting away. Frank was really able to do what he wanted out there with the football. And look, he backed up and threw the ball 37 times, which we hadn't seen him do that through the entire month of November, really at all. And so he was really able to let that thing go back there and having his way with it. When you talk about them letting us get away with just about anything we wanted, but there was a time there, it was early on in the game, and you can say things got a little bit hairy, but I just think that was just a natural component of game planning, and something always happens with North Texas. And I think after seeing this team once already in the regular season, North Texas only had so much more they could pull out of their hat. They only had so much more stopping of UTSA that they could muster in their tank, right? And there was a time there where after it goes 7-7, Well, after UTSA goes up 7-0 after that beautiful first drive, there's a sequence of like 3 goal line battles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. UNT matches our opening touchdown by converting on their 4th and goal. I think it was like 4th and 2, actually. And Ragsdale came down heavy and got it pretty easily. And then on the following drive, and I think this was the scariest moment as a Roadrunner fan, is UTSA gets stopped on 4th and goal, but not even on 4th and goal, bro.
4 straight runs.
It's second and 1, and pretty much from the goal line. They have a 2nd down, a 3rd down, and a 4th down, all from, let's say, the 1 yard to half yard line. Right there on the money. That was brutal. And it was all out of shotgun at that.
Yeah.
All 3 of those plays out of shotgun, not just lining up underneath and just letting Frank just push the pile ahead, man, when it was some beef up front. That was a scary moment when UTSA can't get a 4th and goal after 3 straight attempts on their goal line at home in the Alamo Dome in a tie game in the championship. Yeah, things got weird right there.
We definitely missed Brendan Brady on that goal line stand. I feel pretty strongly that Brady would have found a way to get into the end zone on one of those carries. I think that's also why they had to keep it a shotgun, because I don't think they felt comfortable with Kevorian kind of like lining up in like an I formation almost kind of deal, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. I didn't like the play calls there a whole lot, just because like UTSA was missing some personnel. I don't know. It was concerning, but obviously it's fine in the end. But the thing that concerned me the most is, UTSA has a turnover on down, so like the half yard line, and somehow North Texas's next play on offense ends up with a one-on-one matchup between Corey Mayfield and like their power running back. I watched that play. Yeah, I watched that play like 10 times, and I couldn't figure out why it ended up with Corey Mayfield lined up as like their free safety, and he was like the only guy who had a chance to tackle Ragsdale.
Without Mayfield's closing speed, that's a 99-yard touchdown in one play.
Yeah.
For North Texas.
Right after a turnover on downs on the goal line.
After a turnover on downs. North Texas goes up 14-7 on a 99-yard running play. Could you imagine? I mean, it would have been an entirely different dynamic if Corey Mayfield's closing speed doesn't close in on Ragsdale and bring him down after like 57 yards or whatever it was, 56 or 57 yards. And then there was a wide open touchdown pass that Austinani just flat out overthrew, which brutally overthrew a lot of balls throughout that game. Ani did. Yep. But that one in particular, that one was a blatant one. And they end up having to settle for a field goal on that drive. Dude, Corey Mayfield's closing speed, I think, prevented this game from taking an entirely different dynamic, bro.
Yeah, and that wasn't the only play. There was also a play, I think on UNT's opening drive, where I don't know if it was Jair Shorter or who it was, but they kind of caught like a curl route. I think it was like in the middle of the field. And like the UTSA defense kind of collapsed on him, but no one was able to get a tackle. And he just like reversed field all the way around. Like he ran way through the backfield. It carried on the other side of the field. And Corey Mayfield ran all the way from like the left sideline to the right sideline and was able to force him out of bounds. And that play could have easily been a touchdown there as well. And that would have been a real backbreaker for the defense too, because like you had the ball carrier right there. Nick Booker-Brown had a great hit on him and even, wrapped his arms around him, but he wasn't able to hold on to the tackle and the receiver got away. So that would have been a really demoralizing touchdown, I think, for the defense to give up early there as well. So I think those 2 plays from Corey Mayfield were great, like triangle of toughness type plays that, when you look at the scoreboard or the box score, you're going to look at Frank's 5 touchdowns. You're going to look at Zakari's 3 touchdowns. You're going to look at Kevorian Barnes, 175 yards. But those 2 hustle plays that Corey Mayfield had just as big of an impact on this game, I think, as any of those like offensive contributions.
Bro, I mean, I think these games take a completely different dynamic without Mayfield closing in and preventing those touchdowns from occurring. And just the psyche of North Texas being able to complete a 99-yard drive with a touchdown after a 4th and goal stop, right? And there was a moment where they had a 3rd and goal pretty close. They probably would have been on a 4th and goal situation had Ani not missed on the pitch to Ragsdale before UNT takes or settles for that field goal. And so there's a sequence there. Ani has a couple of mistakes early on that kind of indicate to how his day was going to go.
Dude, We've been talking for just like 10 minutes and we've already mentioned like 4 mistakes from Austin Ani. So 2 things. The gap between Frank Harris and Austin Ani in that game was massive. Like it felt like Ani was just missing a throw every time they needed a clutch throw. He had a couple, don't get me wrong. Like he's not a bad quarterback, but Frank is just so good. And then like he made Ani look bad. And Ani was just like above average, right. I would say, right? Just a huge gap there. But also, if you look back to that first meeting between UTSA and North Texas, that's a big reason why I felt so confident for UTSA early on, because you could see a difference in how Ani was delivering the football, like in the first drive for UNT. And while they still scored, like he didn't look as like lethal as he did in that first meeting. And then I was like, well, Austin Ani played like maybe the best game of his career against UTSA last time, and it still wasn't enough to win. So if he's not as good as that last meeting, what chance do they really have with 41,000 people up there in the stands screaming and hollering and all that? So just a big difference. And I think we've seen this a couple times now where it seems like when UNT has a good thing, sometimes UTSA just one-ups them. And you can say the same about their head coach, I think. I think
former head coach indeed, which we'll get to. Yeah. But I really feel because a lot of UNT's team showed up for a lot of that game, Jared, and they put Ani in position to do something and to take control of that game time and time again. Let's not forget, after UNT goes up 10-7 on that field goal, we go 3 and out immediately. So there's a 4th down stop. UT practically goes nearly almost 99 yards, settles for a field goal, and then gets a 3 and out stop. Clifford Chapman with his interception in his 4th straight game, his 4th consecutive game with a pick, puts UTSA on the 15-yard line.
Hurdles the guy along the way.
Oh my gosh, a thing of beauty. The entire sequence was a thing of beauty. UTSA goes right in to score a touchdown. I would think that was the Frank scramble in for a touchdown.
That sounds right. And
dude, we go up 14-10 and we don't look back. We don't look back after that. It's like every single thing was going right in UTSA's direction. I mean, nothing could go wrong. Even whenever Frank fumbles off of the pitch, it goes directly into Oscar Cardenas's one single hand, the man with one-handed grab, easy. And I mean, we get the it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But nothing could go wrong in the Aladome for UTSA after that interception from Clifford Chapman.
Yeah, big part of football. Clifford was right where he needed to be to catch that errant pass. I think it might have been tipped or like it went through the hands of the receiver or something like that. So it's not like he made some crazy acrobatic play, like read the quarterback's eyes. Like, I mean, he is kind of lucky, right? Like it takes skill to catch the ball for sure. But it was a lucky drop, I guess you could say, for UTSA. And the ball coming right into Oscar's hands. Like, good players with high football IQ tend to be in position to get lucky like that, but you still got to get that bounce, you know what I'm saying? So that's just how football it is, man. And, it was a $2 million consequence for Seth Littrell is the crazy thing about it. That's how the sport is, man. It's kind of wild when you really think about it in an abstract way like that.
It really is. And it's tough, but we've seen this matchup, UNT and UTSA, have dire consequences on a large scale for each one of these programs, respectively, right?
Yeah.
Over the years. And so this is just the latest in the installment of this saga. The latest installment in this saga, Seth Littrell getting axed after UTSA wins the conference championship over UNT. But the fact of the matter is, Seth Littrell has kind of hit his ceiling with North Texas for quite some time here, Jared. And is it kind of unfair for him to get axed after losing to a team that was clearly better than them? But I don't know. When you stack up where he's been at, I don't know if you stack up where he's been at and the ceiling that he's been unable to burst through for so long. I mean, I think it's a warranted move. It's hard to do like immediately day after, but I mean, you don't want him to wait either.
They should have fired him last year is the thing.
Okay.
They wanted to fire him last year and they kept him and they let him play his way into his job. Right. And obviously it was at UTSA's expense that win came, that, you know, if he hadn't beat UTSA, they wouldn't have gone to a bowl and they wouldn't have kept him. Right. They wouldn't have had a ranked win. So that's why you see like a lot of schools fire coaches really early in the season. I mean, you look at like Nebraska this year would be one example. So if you have a coach and you know it's not going to be a long-term fit anymore, don't let him stick around and play his way into a role. But it seems to me like what happened with Seth is that he was getting to the end of his contract. It's hard to recruit when you're on the last year of your contract. He wanted a long-term extension. I'm not sure the UNT was as jazzed about that. They definitely didn't want to increase his salary, right? Because he's already paid so much. And I think Brent Baker was like, hey, instead of dealing with this awkward situation, why don't I see if I can get myself another job? And he moves on to West Virginia. Very, very well-deserved move for him. And UNT said, well, you know, we don't want to hamstring whoever the new AD is going to be with like kind of a lame duck coach. So let's just pull the trigger, name an interim for the bowl game. Phil Bennett, great coach. And let the next man up do his search. I mean, there's no questioning that they're going to attract some really, really, really good candidates at that job.
For sure.
I mean, if you're an up-and-coming coach that has any ties to the Metroplex, man, why would you not want this job? Going to the American, you got incredible facilities, a lot of money in that program. You're going to be well paid, close to home. They got some things that they're lacking in for sure. You know, I think the NIL hasn't quite got off the ground just yet, but the money's there. The business community's there.
Yeah.
Fan support is in and out. It's intermittent, but I think there's enough passion in Denton in the surrounding area that you can build a, you know, really solid, you know, 20K core fan base and then bump that up to higher crowds, right? For big games. And, you know, God forbid they get ranked in the top 25. I mean, I think you're going to see the community turn out, that kind of North Metroplex community turn out pretty well for that program if they have an exciting coach there. So, you know, I think from the outside looking in, it's easy to criticize this. I mean, I do agree that it's not a great look to fire a coach right after you play in a conference championship game, but I like that UTSA and UNT hold themselves and each other to this high standard, right? That like, if you can't beat that program, then we're going to have to move on because we got to be better than those guys, right? I love that. I think it's great for both programs. I think it's going to propel both of those programs to higher ceilings. And, you know, I hope from the UTSA perspective that we keep saying, well, you know, UNT did this, we need to answer in some way, shape, or form, because it's going to make both programs better. It's going to make the conference better. So I think Seth did a great job in Denton. I think he elevated that program to a place that they hadn't been before, or at least not in my lifetime. You know, you got to go back to like the 80s. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some years in the 90s, but yeah, I think UNT is in a really good spot right now. So, you know, I hope that they don't like trash Seth on the way out, but I get why they did it. I just think they should have done it a year earlier, but I do think it's going to work out for them and they're going to get a pretty good coach.
Well, it's like you said, it's a attractive position right now, and that position wouldn't nearly be as attractive if it wasn't for Seth and what he's been able to mold it into and turn it into. Yeah, he's done a fantastic job as far as building that program up, getting interest back into it, and solidifying it, right, as like a competitor on this level, which they hadn't been prior to him getting there. And he deserves a lot of respect, man. You know, a lot of those intangible things that Frank Wilson did off the field for UTSA as a program, Seth Littrell also did at UNT. I've never seen the fan interest so high, but you talk about getting solid crowds in there on average. We saw samples of it during Seth Littrell's tenure. We saw him compete at the highest level of their conference a couple of times. And look, he was 0-7 in the postseason, 0-5 in bowl game appearances, 0-2 in conference championship games. And look, it's not going to do it after that large of a sample size. You got to be able to make a move after that. And Jared, it really has turned into this, that we are the standard for one another. If you can't beat this team, we are going to do whatever it takes to beat this team. And so whether that's bigger and nicer facilities, whether that's more expensive, more winning coaches, that's what we're going to go out and get. Better players, better recruits. That's what we're going to go out and get. I mean, it's a head-to-head competition in so many different facets now. UTSA versus UNT football. It's tremendous what we've seen.
You made mention that, Seth got fired because he lost to a better team, which is true, but it's Seth's fault that was the case. Like, on paper, UTSA should not out-recruit North Texas. They're closer to more Division I players in the Metroplex. They have better facilities. They have more history. And even if you want to say, I see people make the argument that like, oh, well, UNT only lost because UTSA had a generational talent at quarterback. And like, yeah, there's truth to that. But North Texas offered Frank Harris too, right? And when Frank committed, this program was a shell of what it is today, right? If Seth Littrell is a better recruiter back in 2017, 2018, whatever it was, then that guy is going to go to North Texas instead of UTSA, and you're not going to lose to him because he's on your roster, right? And, you think about it too. I mean, how often does UTSA lose recruiting battles to North Texas right now? It doesn't happen all that much, right?
Nope.
So I think that's a big key, right? Is I think like Seth couldn't recruit well enough to compete into the league they're going into. And I think North Texas knew that, right? I mean, just like we said earlier, UTSA had more team speed, they had more depth, and that's all a byproduct of recruiting, right? So I think that's why, like, from an outsider's perspective, you don't follow this stuff that closely. It looks crazy on the surface to be like, oh, he's won more here than almost any coach, just played a conference championship game. But that writing was on the wall, and those off the field things were very apparent to the people that follow this stuff closely, right? So I don't know, kind of is what it is to me. I get it. I get why people are upset about him getting fired, but I also think it was probably the right move. It was just a year too late.
Yeah, it's time for UNT to move on, man. It was time for UNT to move on. And to get back to championship game, I think a couple more shout outs before I know we got to get to a couple other topics, but man, a couple more of the shout outs. You talk about Frank Harris, dude. How about just the very first drive? He was perfect, bro. He was a perfect 5 for 5, 42 yards, getting it downfield before Kevorian Barnes opens up. I think it was a 27-yard touchdown run. Kevorian Barnes, 6.3 yards per carry. 177
his first start.
Or 175 yards. 175 yards. His first start in a championship game.
Man, it's so exciting to think about what Kevorian's going to be able to do. His speed on the edge is just different. His first touchdown he had on that opening drive, whoo, man, that was beautiful.
Yeah, that was a thing of beauty.
I don't want to get carried away, but it's nice to see Jeff's guys starting to take over this program. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because he was winning with Frank Wilson's guys, right? For the most part, these past 2 seasons, or I guess 3 seasons even, because UTSA did have a 7-5 record back in 2020. I don't know. It's just awesome to see like Walker Beatty blow up in a hole. Kevorian Barnes runs through. Dan Dishman throws the block to spring it, right? I mean, you can kind of see the future of the program start to build out in real time. That's what excites me the most.
Yeah. Yeah, something to very much be excited about, man. The turning of the guard is good. It's looking good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're still not sure about Frank Harris as of 8:15 p.m. on Monday, December 5th. We still do not have an announcement, Jared, on whether or not Frank Harris is going to return to the Roadrunners or if he is going to go somewhere else, retire altogether. We don't know. Mm-hmm. We have no idea what his decision is.
Yeah. You want to talk about that now or after the break? Or I got some more thoughts on the championship game I'd like to get to.
Let's finish off the championship game thoughts.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to that after the break. One of the biggest questions I had was who was going to be running back 2 in this game. And KJ Cobbs, he didn't play a lot of snaps, but he played quality snaps when he was in. He only had 1 carry. I think he had like 5 yards or something like that. but he was crushing dudes in pass protection. That was pretty cool to see. It was almost like having a fullback out there, lined up in a halfback position. So that was nice. They put Josh Cephas back in the backfield a lot as well. I was surprised more people didn't talk about that. I thought that really showed Josh's versatility and his selflessness and his ability to be a leader on this team. So that was pretty cool.
It's gonna be important. Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought it was a really great game from the defensive backs. If you look at Ani's performance in this game compared to the last one, it didn't really feel like he was bombing bombing the UTSA defense through the air that much. Average yards per attempt, just 6.5 yards. I don't have the last game pulled up in front of me right now, but it just feels like it was a lot higher in that game because he had so many long completions. So I thought the defensive backs played pretty great overall. Clifford Chapman had a huge game. Ken Robinson actually moved from safety back to cornerback for this game, and he got the pick that kind of solidified the win for UTSA. And I thought it was like one of those moments that if you look back at that guy's career, it's kind of like a capsule of why UTSA won and UNT didn't, because Robinson's a guy that ran like a 4.40 coming out of, Grand Prairie, one of the best programs in the whole state of Texas. And he had like 10 offers. Most of them were FCS offers, right? But, UTSA and several other FBS schools offered him. North Texas didn't. The guy comes to UTSA and, gives up a starting position to provide depth at the safety spot, shows the culture and the buy-in that they have. He didn't hit the portal, and he gets that game-winning interception against the school that didn't recruit him in his own hometown or home area.
Unbelievable.
It's like a poetic moment, really, if you look at that. And, sometimes there's just these occurrences in college football where it's almost like there's a grand architect putting these stories together. It's like a Disney movie. So that was really cool. I didn't realize it at first, but when I sat down for my rewatch and I started doing my film breakdown for Patreon, I was like, you know what? That's pretty damn cool. I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna roll with it. So shout out to Ken. That was awesome to see.
It was very beautifully illustrated, Jared. Truly moving. Yeah. I mean, that's phenomenal. And let's not forget Jared Sackett with the boot, a 42 and a 43 yarder, both good from way, way deep at critical points during the game, I might say as well, second, third quarter. And man, the distribution, Joshua Cephas, 11 catches, 84 yards. Zakari Franklin, 10 catches, 3 touchdowns, 144 yards. Big Oscar Cardenas, 6 catches, 84 yards, a touchdown, and really should have been 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Oscar had a great game for sure. Some huge blocks as well.
Absolutely massive, bro. Absolutely massive.
Yeah, they did a double pass to him too.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Always tends to shine when the lights are brightest, Oscar, man. Never fails to show up in the clutch moments, man. Yeah, build the statue. And, Freedom guys that are returning, I mean, for what we understand, Oscar is going to return, correct?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Yeah, well, that's a good-looking one. So, yes, indeed. Absolutely just tremendous showing all around, man. Defensively, golly, all over the place, dude. I think you did a good job shouting out all the backs, but just all 3 phases. I think Coach Traylor said it in the post-game press conference. He mentioned we've been waiting all year for the most complete game, and we played our most complete game tonight. All 3 phases, all 4 quarters. I think he was right, man. UTSA really felt like they were in control of that game the whole time. I understand there were a couple moments we were down on the scoreboard, or maybe it was within a score or 2, but just watching that game, it really did feel like we were in control and we were going to win it handily throughout. And that sure enough ended up being the case by the time it was all said and done. So, yeah, just tremendous effort from the boys, man. Really great stuff.
My final thought is UTSA now has the series lead over North Texas.
That's right, 6-5.
Yes, sir. Book it. Any last things before we do some Patreon shoutouts? I think we pretty much covered it all.
No, I think that was good stuff. UNT, RIP. Guess we'll see you on the American.
RIP.
Yeah.
Go hire a good coach, man. I don't want to scrub over there. I want to beat good teams, not bad teams, right? Well, shout out to our newest Patreon subscribers joining us at the big money donor tier, Jenny, Chris, and Chase Fikes. So thank you so much to the Fike family for your support. As always, thank you to our big money donors, Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, the Bunch family, Zach Espedicueta on the San Antonio Podcast Network, Brandon Padron. And as always, huge thank you. Got to see some of these guys for the first time in a while at the tailgate. So that was awesome. Shout out to Digiteek, John Otwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Reality Tailgating, Gary and Ruben represented the UTSA Bird Gang Tailgate, Ray Redding and Mimi Apparel, Brandon Grell and the Grell Realty Group, and Andy Elizalde and Proficient Benefit Solutions. So thank you guys all so much. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have a film breakdown of the conference championship game on our Patreon. So if you subscribe today for as little as $5 a month, it'll gain you access to that, as well as all of our bonus podcast and our special donor-only resources, all kinds of cool stuff. And as we get into the off season, we'll be continuing to do some bonus content over there as well. So it's never a bad time to sign up. We'll keep it rolling throughout the off season.
Jared, there are a couple superlatives that I did want to mention.
Yes, go ahead.
I forgot. UTSA has now delivered the city of San Antonio the elusive, coveted, what the Spurs were unable to ever deliver. Back-to-back championships.
All throughout the Popovich dynasty, they never went back-to-back?
No, they had a streak of 3 every other years.
Yeah.
It was 03, 05, 07, I think it was.
It's so hard to go back-to-back. It's, another thing I was thinking of too, I was listening to a college football podcast talking about a different conference championship game, just how hard it is in sports to beat the same team twice in 1 year. And UTSA has done that twice in a row now with Western Kentucky last year and UNT this year. It's tremendous stuff. And 2 great football coaches, I'll say. And Tyson Helton at Western Kentucky and Seth Littrell at North Texas. So just impressive stuff. It's one thing to beat FIU twice in a year or whatever, but these guys are no scrubs.
And to come back and to be completely undefeated in conference play the second time that you do it, right? I mean, really came back and did not lose a single game in CUSA, right? Undisputed, if you will.
Yeah, there's no doubt that UTSA is ready to move on to the next tier of college football. It might not be a massive jump like we're moving to the SEC or something, but UTSA left no doubt that it was time for them to move on to bigger and better things. So it was just, again, a really cool poetic moment to see UTSA close it out the way that they did.
I thought it was beautiful. I don't know if it's against the rules because it's considered a quote unquote neutral site. I think the conference championship game. I don't know, but where was the confetti, bro? I mean, I feel like there should have been confetti being sprayed all over the Alamo Dome, and we didn't get any of the blue and orange flutter and the confetti angels and the championship confetti. And I just wanted to feel that. I wanted to feel it on my skin, and we didn't get any of that. I was disappointed in that Alamo Dome.
Yeah, hopefully the conference championship game experience is better in the American than it was in Conference USA. I don't understand what Conference USA neuters it and makes it neutral. I don't think that's good. If you want to have that advantage and that kind of unique flair, just go win your division or get the top seed or whatever. I'm not sure how the American handles their business, but I'm not a big fan of that. Won't be missing that. I will say that the crowd took a little while to get settled in without the help of UTSA's PA announcing, though 41,000 San Antonians were in there. Very, very good job from the city. And speaking of the city, Jared, now we are allowed to talk about it. Will UTSA get a river parade this year? We saw Mayor Muscles, Ron Nierenberg, tweeted out Frank Harris was calling for it on the TL, baby. Does it happen? That's a great question. I don't know. You would think by now they would have some real plans announced for it at this point. Because, UTSA's bowl games, and they're going to leave for their bowl game on Monday, on the 12th. So it's the end of the day on the 5th when we're recording. So that doesn't really leave much time for the city to announce something and have it in place. Unless you're going to have it after the bowl game. That seems kind of weird to me. I don't know. Maybe that's a plan. Maybe they're waiting to see if Incarnate Word wins their championship.
They do a split thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that personally.
I wouldn't mind it either. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Get better turnout, right? I think most UTSA fans would want to celebrate the Cardinals as well if they're able to pull it off.
Are you driving to San Antonio for the River Parade if it's on a weekend?
I don't think so, man.
I don't know. You don't know what
My last drive back on I-10 from San Antonio to Houston was absolutely hellacious. And I know the Houston Roadrunners that had that same drive as me know what I'm talking about. You know, on Google Maps, like when you're in navigation mode, it'll say like, 10-minute delay ahead. At one point in time, my GPS said 1 hour and 16-minute delay. And I was just like, man, I'm so glad I'm done with this for this year. I can't.
Oh my gosh, bro.
Dude, I-10 is getting just as bad as I-35 with all the construction. It's been tough, man. It's been really hard on me this year.
Unreal.
All right, well, let's take a quick Cumbia break. We got a lot of other UTSA football news to talk about. Transfer portals opening up. We got coaches on the move. We got to talk some more about Frank Harris's status. We got a bowl selection. A lot more coming up after the break, but enjoy this Cumbia while we take a minute to catch our breath. All right, guys, we are back. Hope you guys enjoyed that quick Cumbia break. I sure needed it because we got a lot of topics that we got to get through. First, and arguably most pressing, is we still do not know if Frank Harris will be returning to the UTSA Roadrunners in 2023. I guess we also don't technically know if he's going to play in the bowl game next week. I think that he will almost for sure play in the bowl game. He doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to sit out. He's almost definitely not going to be an early draft pick in the NFL draft, right? So, Adrian, this is stressful. I don't like it. I think I speak on behalf of the entire UTSA community when I say that I will wholeheartedly support Frank in whatever decision he makes. He has earned the right to do whatever he wants to do. He's given all that he has to this university. I know he's still got more to give, but you cannot fault him if he wants to go test the waters in the NFL, if he wants to go play at a Power 5 school, if he wants to just stop playing football. You can't fault him for any of that. But I want some closure, man. I'm sick of having to check my phone every 5 minutes. How are you feeling?
It's hard. It's difficult. You want him back so bad. Everybody wants him back so bad. And you know, I ain't too proud to beg for Frank to come back for one more season. And we need him back. It's got to happen. And of course, we'll respect whatever decision he makes because he has earned that. But, for him to come back and, you know, have the same success at the American athletic level, I think for him and Jeff Traylor alike, for them to have a degree of the same success that they've enjoyed in Conference USA would serve as an ultimate supreme validation for both those guys and the job that they do. And not just having it be against a bottom tier CUSA schedule, but a schedule that commands a little bit more respect and attention. You know, maybe that's for Frank Harris's future draft stock or undrafted stock. Practice squad stock. Maybe it's for Jeff Traylor getting the pick of his litter for his next coaching job. But I think either way, for them to be able to have that same success with UTSA at the AAC level would serve tremendous benefit for their respective resumes. For Frank, man, he is Mr. San Antonio, 210 tattooed on him. I mean, Frank the God deserves the statue, deserves everything, deserves Frank Harris Field named right after him. The guy's done it all, but it's like I can't imagine him being anywhere else, right? Like Batman's got to be in really Gotham. Batman's got to be in Gotham City. Frank Harris got to be in San Antonio, and not just as far as fit goes. Talk about him fitting with a different team or having the same success as a different team, but just the identity of Frank Harris and San Antonio being so synonymous and parallel. It's one and the same. we got to have Frank Harris back for that run to really solidify UTSA on the next level before his departure. And look, man, I love Frank. Jeff Traylor, he's got to do what it takes to get the right dollars into Frank Harris's pockets. Because really, brother, what it all comes down to is a dollar bill, y'all. And that is what reigns supreme. NIL money has got to be tremendous, has got to be unheard of for Frank Harris. It's got to be ridiculous compared to what anyone else at UTSA is getting, or what anyone else even in Conference USA or the teams that are going to the AAC have even considered giving one of their players. It's got to be laughable. We got to get that man paid.
Wait, sorry, I'm confused. Are you saying it would take a massive NIL deal to draw Frank away from UTSA or to keep him here?
To make sure he stays here, we need to do that, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Gotcha.
We need to fit the bill that it is ridiculous. People are like, they're paying Frank how much?
Okay.
Other programs aren't even interested in trying to compete with us.
Okay. I gotcha. So that's the theory that I have, is that Frank is coming back. He knows he's coming back. Jeff Traylor knows he's coming back, but they're going to keep the fan base and the community suspended and essentially doing an NIL fundraiser. And I fully support that. I think that's great. I have no problem with that, if that's what it is. And I have seen Runners Rising Project, tweeting a lot that they're getting new donations in and stuff like that. I'm sure 210 Inspired is actually, I've seen a lot of people tweet that they did some pretty hefty donations to 210 Inspired as well. So yeah, dude, I'm all for that. If that's the move, right? Because that'll get Frank paid and probably other players paid too, right? So that's awesome. Maybe this is a hot take. I don't know. And I don't say this out of my assessment of Frank personally, because I do think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But I think if, let's say that Frank wanted to build his draft resume and prove himself, and he's like, okay, I'm going to go to Tennessee or Florida or somewhere like that. I'm not sure that he's a for sure day one starter for those schools, not because he's not good enough or he's not capable, but just because it's really rare for G5 quarterbacks to move up to P5 and start. I was thinking about that the other day, and I really couldn't think of a single example. One of our Patreon listeners, Mark, pointed out Dylan Gabriel going from UCF to OU, which didn't really work out for the Sooners, but that was really the only example I could think of a G5 quarterback going to a major P5 program and starting at quarterback, because they're always going to be enticed by those 5-star guys with massive cannon arms. And again, I want to specify, I'm just talking major P5, like Ohio State, Florida, Oregon, those kind of schools, right? I'm not talking about Vanderbilt, Washington State, right. To jump up to that level, you're competing with 5-stars, guys that have the pedigree and the talent to go in the first round of the NFL draft, right? So I kind of agree with you, man. It's hard for me to picture Frank going and playing for another college football team, but I could definitely see him saying, look, even if I just make a practice squad somewhere, I'm going to take that. That's probably more money than I'm going to make in NIL at UTSA. And then if it doesn't work out, that's fine. I'll go on and start a career or do whatever else, start coaching, whatever he wants to do. But I think that's probably where the two options lie right now. You run it back and you kind of lead the team in the American, one last hurrah. JT Clark's coming back. It sounds like most everybody's coming back. We'll have to see how it all shakes out. But I mean, I think I won't be surprised about either, but my gut tells me that he does come back for another year. Jeff Traylor knows it. They're going to let him slow play it, do his announcement, see if his feelings change. I really fear another Sincere McCormick scenario where he doesn't tell the team he's leaving until it's way too late and the transfer portal's already dried up. So hopefully we avoid that scenario.
I mean, Jared, we need the trilogy. The dream can't be over. The movie can't be over. I mean, there's got to be one more piece to the saga. The triangle is 3 sides. We need 3 chapters. We need 3. We need 1, 2. That's what the dream can't be over, Jared. Frank has to come back for one more year. I think you're right. And I propose that if and when Frank does come back, that we give him the whole 210 jersey number, 210, Harris on the back, just the whole entire area code. He's earned it. He deserves it. Give him the whole area code on the jersey, 210. That's what we need.
I don't hate it. Well, we'll surely have more to say about Frank's decision. Hopefully he'll announce it sometime this week. I'm kind of on pins and needles over here. It'd be nice to get that done. But in the meantime, I guess the other biggest topic of discussion is UTSA getting selected for the Cure Bowl. They will be playing on Friday, December 16th at like 2 p.m. against Troy. It's been I guess like a controversy on the Twitter timeline of people saying it's a terrible bowl selection and other people saying it's a top 3 bowl matchup this year. What are your personal thoughts on this bowl?
I think it's fantastic. I think UTSA to go up against an extremely good Troy team is a dream matchup. And, you're going to South Florida. I understand it's Orlando, you're going to Disney World. You just won the CUSA championship. What are you going to do next? We're going to Disney World, right? It's the literal idea here. And so I know some people maybe not get super jazzed up about that destination. Maybe they wanted a New Orleans or something like that. And look, matchups, I think you're always going to have people that like only view legitimate bowls as like the largest bowls that are played in the country, and anything else is just not legitimate enough at all. And people want a P5 opponent. And yeah, I get all that, but damn it, Jared, UTSA needs to win a bowl game. You put us up against a very evenly matched Troy team. This is going to be a high stakes, back and forth, fun game, a very difficult game, but one that UTSA can go in there and win and would be very, very much respected for doing so. And I think would make a strong argument for this team starting the 2023 season in the American Athletic Conference with a ranking.
If they beat Troy in the Cure Bowl and they bring back all the guys that we're expecting back, pretty good spot, right? I mean, we'll have to see how things shake out, but pretty good chance that they're going to be like Houston was this year, where they're hot coming off a big win in the bowl and they slide right in the top 25, in the American Athletic Conference starting the season off. So I wouldn't write that off at all. I kind of share the same thoughts as you. I mean, UTSA has 2 major accomplishments that they haven't been able to do yet. Win a bowl game. Everyone knows that one. Beat a ranked opponent, right? So you get another chance to do both at the same time, right?
Wow.
So I don't know what more you can really ask for as far as an opponent goes. Like, is it better to be like a really hobbled, I don't know, who's the worst P5 team that's bowl eligible? I don't know. But to go beat like a really beat down 6-6 P5 team where half their guys are in the transfer portal, like you're going to get less respect for that than you probably would for beating a ranked Troy team, right? So
right.
And I also just don't think the fan base really understands how bowls work. It's not like this draft system. Well, I guess in a little bit of a way it is, but it's not like they just like sit there and shuffle all 80 teams that qualify for a bowl and rank them and put in the best spot from top to bottom, right? The conferences have tie-ins to these bowls. ESPN controls everything behind the scenes for the most part. So like for UTSA to get like the Independence Bowl that has a P5 draw, or to get the New Orleans Bowl, which is a better destination, they would have had to lose the conference championship to do that, because the Conference USA has a rule that if you win the conference championship, you got to go to an ESPN owned bowl. So there are all these different machines working in the background. And unfortunately, I'm here to tell you, it's not going to get much better in the American Athletic Conference, because their bowl tie-ins are kind of booty as well. There is a global conspiracy. I'm on Alex Jones right here. There's a global conspiracy to prevent Power 5 teams from taking losses to really good G5 teams in the bowl system. This has systematically taken place over several decades, and we've arrived at this point where it's almost impossible to get a good Power 5 draw in a bowl game if you're a G5. And the only thing you can do about it, if you have a problem with it, is to be the top-ranked G5 team and go to a New Year's Six Bowl or go to the playoffs come 2024. And UTSA is doing everything they can to do that. They're going to the American Athletic Conference, which gives them the best path to make that happen. And it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Like Like really, when you're complaining about UTSA's bowl draws, you're just complaining about them not being in a Power 5 conference. Rant over.
100%. 100%. And who's more respect more important from? Is it from dumbass at the water cooler, coffee mug, or is it from an actual pundit, someone that actually has a vote, someone that actually matters within the college football ranking system, right? And that's who's going to give UTSA more respect by going and beating Troy.
Well, and recruits too. I mean, like you're probably competing against Troy with more recruits than you're competing against Vanderbilt.
Big time. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. So I don't know. Personally, I will not be traveling this bowl. That date and that time is tough to get to. I hate Orlando. Orlando might be one of my most despised cities in America.
I don't understand the root of your deep rooted beef hatred with O-Town, with Mickey Mouse.
Adrian, I'm a 31-year-old hipster. What am I going to do in Orlando, Florida? The whole town's a shopping mall. I hate shopping malls. I'm terrified of teenagers. I can't go to Orlando, dude. Okay. I hate Disney adults.
Those are
I discriminate against Disney adults more than any type of person in the world.
There's got to be like,
if I get in trouble for this, I don't know. Are any of our listeners Disney adult people? Like, did anyone have a Disney wedding that listens to this podcast?
There's got to be like on eBay somewhere where I can order you like a shirt with like Mickey Mouse, but wearing like a UTSA hat and UTSA shirt.
Hey, let's make a bet. If UTSA beats Troy, they get the first ranked win, they get the first bowl win. I'll record a video wearing Mickey Mouse ears.
Wow, that is so on. I love that. That is fantastic.
All right, let's do it. I'm gonna do it for the listeners and for the Disney adults that I've been roasting. All right, well, moving along. Maybe this is bigger news than the Cure Bowl. I don't know. Kind of saw it coming a little bit, I guess. It was too good to be true. Our boy Will Stein, the young prodigy, on to greener pastures. Huge promotion for him. Quadrupled his pay, had a baby last week, moving on to Oregon, offensive coordinator replacing Kyle Willingham. Man, shout out to Coach Stein. He's the best offensive coordinator to ever come through UTSA, and I have a ton of respect for Barry Leonard Turner when I say that. But this guy was special. I knew he was destined for big things. It was just so fun to watch his offenses, especially having a quarterback like Frank Harris and the skill players that UTSA's had. Super happy for Will.
Electric. I mean, it was electric to be privileged enough to watch this offense perform all season long, right? At 39 points a game, 6. It was a crazy. What was the freaking average yardage per game at UTSA?
Really high.
Oh my gosh. I thought I had it here. I lost it.
I would guess like 490s or something like that. I don't know.
It's just tremendous what he was able to do with the amount of talent that he had, and he used all of it. He was able to utilize all the talent. And then whenever we would lose talent, he didn't have any, and credit to all the assistant coaches on the offense as well. Mathematics big time. But I mean, this guy was really able to orchestrate such good calls at really, really important times all season long. But the firepower of the offense, I mean, the potency, Frank Harris, really just having the green light, being able to just do what he does. And Will Stein has been the absolute man here, dude. And he deserves a promotion. He knew it was coming. Going to get that paycheck, baby. All Pacific Northwest. You got to love it.
Yeah. And I don't think Coach Stein ever got enough credit for how he developed the big three receivers as well. Not to take anything away from Joe Price, but I mean, that's when we really saw like Zachary and Josh like break out, was when Coach Stein was coaching the wide receivers. So wouldn't mind having the guy back as a head coach someday. I'll say that much. Not a whole lot of UTSA assistants I say that about, he's certainly one of them.
486 yards per game.
Damn, I'm good. I said 490s.
You said 490s, dude. He was pretty spot on, buddy.
Damn, man. I'm getting good at this podcasting stuff, Adrian.
90% in the red zone.
After 12 years.
Crazy.
96% in the red zone? Is that what you said?
90%.
Okay, 90. That's still crazy, man. Wow.
90 is crazy.
Wow.
90 is crazy.
And, also, UTSA didn't kick a whole lot of field goals in the red zone either, right? So, like, the points per red zone trip, crazy high. Got to be top 10% in the country for sure. Well, with Coach Stein on to Oregon and collecting a whole boatload of money there, UTSA wasted no time in announcing an offensive coordinator. And while, I'm pretty okay with this move, I really kind of have a bone to pick with Jeff Traylor because speculating about coaching hires drives a lot of subscriptions to audible.com. And, I could have used two or three days to get an article up and get some clicks, get some subscriptions.
An episode, a blog post, a column, something. I mean,
something, man. Come on, you gotta let me and JJ and Javi eat. You know what I'm saying?
No scoops allowed out here, son.
Yeah, something, man. I have a short list ready to go. I keep a notebook of coaches that I think would be good head coaching candidates at UTSA and coaches that I think would be like good coordinators or assistant coaches at UTSA. So I bust out that notebook and literally when I started going through the names, boom, notification pops up. Justin Burke promoted to be co-offensive coordinator with Matt Maddox, staying run game coordinator. Coach Burke going back to coaching tight ends, which he did in 2020, I believe. I think I got that wrong. I think he coached tight ends this year and was special teams coordinator. But nonetheless, he will be focusing on tight ends, and I assume he'll be the play caller, passing game coordinator for UTSA. And, it's just kind of been Jeff Traylor's MO. He wants continuity. He wants to keep the culture in place. He wants the scheme to stay the same for the most part. He wants the verbiage of the offense to stay the same for the most part. So, it was no surprise for them to do an internal promotion. I did think that Coach Price might be the one to get it. But really, when you step back and you look at Coach Burke's resume, like it really looks a lot like a G5 offensive coordinator's resume. It is a big takeaway for me. I know these internal promotions can be a little controversial because you'd kind of like to test the waters and see what kind of coach you can get to take your job before you just give it to a guy internally. And I totally get that. But if you look at Coach Burke's resume, I'll list some of that stuff off right now because I have it in front of me. Played quarterback at Louisville and NC State, 2-year letterman, started 8 games at Louisville. Quarterback was offensive quality control and graduate assistant at Louisville, where they were super successful, worked with Teddy Bridgewater, Devontae Parker. Then he worked at Texas, quality control, special teams, offense as well for 3 seasons, I think. Then he was at USF for 3 years, working tight end, special teams coordinator. And then all the work he's done at UTSA, the barometer that I use for these internal hires is if you replaced UTSA on the resume with another like hot G5 program, an App State, a Boise State, a UCF, someone like that, would that resume be enough to get hired at a school like UTSA if you just subbed out UTSA on the resume with another big G5 program? I think in Coach Burke's case, the answer is yes, right? Like if I'm another G5 program and I'm looking at Coach Burke, I think he fits the mold for an offensive coordinator. You would like to see some play calling experience somewhere else in his career, even if it's at a D2 or a high school level or something like that. But I mean, the guy played quarterback in a spread offense at Louisville. I think he's going to be just fine calling the plays.
Sure.
So
yeah,
I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I think this is a great move. Look, it's clearly something that's been predetermined for a while for it to be this seamless and this immediate, right? I think Will Stein and Traylor probably already had a handshake deal done behind closed doors, and Burke was already letting know, hey, this is sort of how it's all going to move next week. And yeah, man, Traylor's done a really good job with these internal promotions. I think you've got to trust in that. I think there's something to say about continuity in that regard. That's really, really been working. And when you have so many guys returning on the field, you have so many guys returning on the sideline, and you're really trying to keep the same core components of your identity going into this new conference. So many things around UTSA are changing. And it's like UTSA is going to do everything it can to remain exactly the same team that it is right now, while everything outside of it changes going into the American Conference. And I think that's the best strategy. This team is playing the best football it ever has in its program history, right? So why not keep everything in-house, keep it internal? And, you talk about terminology not changing, everything down to the core, right? And all that continuity is so important for this team. I think it's going to serve tremendous benefit. Yeah, I think so. And Justin Burke, resume is tremendous. I don't know how involved he was in offense at all. Yeah, you want to see some play calling experience there. I know Jeff Traylor still has a bit of an influence on what's going on offensively as well. And so,
well, keep this in mind. So Will Stein was out the week of practice of the conference championship game. His wife had their first child.
Yep.
What a freaking month has been for the Steins, man. Merry freaking Christmas to them, right? Make sure you max out your 401k. Will, just a little tip, get that child college fund, up and going. But no, jokes aside, I reckon that, I don't say reckon on the podcast too much, but I reckon that Justin Burke was probably taking the lead in game planning for that week with Coach Stein kind of being away from the team. I think he was like zooming into stuff as well.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that was almost like an on-the-job interview for Coach Burke to see how he handled that. And UTSA came out super well prepared, had a great game plan that executed it damn near to perfection, right? So if that was the case, that Burke was kind of acting as the OC that week with Coach Stein away, it seems like he passed with flying colors. And, I really trust Coach Traylor to know, if Burke had enough of a hand on game planning throughout the past couple of years that he was ready to take this leap, right? And I think Coach Traylor has really earned the benefit of the doubt in that sense, because his internal hires for the most part have looked pretty dang good, right? So.
And don't forget, Burke was actually on the same staff as Traylor and Maddox.
Yeah.
While at UT.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that bond there. They've kind of built up that rapport, I think, with one another too. And that sort of speaks to Traylor's trust in Burke. Right. So that all serves a lot of confidence for me. And, we think about teams that are just going out and trying to make the best hire possible. It's at the end of the day, a toss-up, a 50-50 chance whenever you're going out and getting a fresh hire for an assistant coaching position. We've seen it actually ruin staffs at times and ruin programs, right? Programs completely fall from grace. And we think about the Frank Wilson era here. And so I don't know if whenever you promote somebody from within, is it still 50-50 or odds maybe a little bit better than that, a little bit higher for that promo guy? Maybe not being successful, but not being a failure so much, just because of continuity and consistency. And so I don't know. I like Justin Burke. I really, really love Will Stein, man. He deserves it more than anybody. And yeah, man. I'm on board with the hire. Yeah.
With Coach Burke getting promoted, I think this the gap that it leaves on the coaching roster, if you will, is a quarterback's coach. So I kind of thought that Coach Burke might transition from being the tight end coach to being the quarterback coach, since he played quarterback in college. But Coach Burke updated his Twitter bio to say co-offensive coordinator and tight ends coach. So it looks like he'll be staying in that position. Maybe it's just short term. Maybe he will go to quarterback coach in the future. But if that is the case, that UTSA is looking to hire an on-field quarterback coach, which I think they should certainly have coach focus on quarterbacks, I think they're going to go with an internal promotion there as well, to be honest with you.
Who do you think that might be, Jared?
Sean Davis. Probably not a name that a ton of listeners know off the top of their head, because he's been an assistant, like off-field coach for UTSA. But he's been like the assistant quarterback coach for UTSA for many years now. I think since Traylor has gotten here, he spent a lot of time in Incarnate Word and was kind of in a similar role there. He was actually the on-field quarterbacks coach. So he already has Division I experience as a quarterbacks coach. He knows the system really well. Obviously, all the players know him, and I assume they respect him well. And again, Coach Traylor is all about doing those internal promotions, about showing those really young, talented coaches that you have a clear path to moving up the ladder. If you come in and work for me as a quality control coach, graduate assistant, whatever it might be. So keep an eye on that. Also curious to see who gets the special teams coordinator spot. Joe Price, right. Coach Graham. Coach Graham is bound to have some suitors this offseason. What he's done with Tariq Woolen, Corey Mayfield, Detroit Fortune.
Yeah,
man, he's a great recruiter. I think PVI is going to come calling for him. So give him that special teams coordinator spot, bump his salary, whatever you're going to do, make him a co-DC. I don't know, something. But UTSA's got to get creative to protect their coaching staff. And I think the model of doing these internal promotions still has some risk to it, but like you're saying, I think it's probably a little bit safer than going and grabbing some rando guys that might not be a culture fit or whatever.
Coach Traylor pounding the table for NIL dollars to go to his players, pounding the table for dollars to get into his assistant coaches' pockets as well. He knows what it's going to take to retain these guys. And it comes down to dollars and cents, because it's at this point, Jared, that UTSA is such on the up and up and now going into the American Conference that any other G5 move could be argued to be a lateral move. I think it's fair to say. I mean, sure, you could go make another $1 million at a couple of other G5s, right? Yes. But as far as like the ceiling of the program and the level of success that you can have with the program, I think UTSA has pretty much reached the upper echelon of the G5 when it comes to that, when it comes to the potential of your coaching ladder resume, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you're a coordinator or an assistant coach at UTSA, I don't know if there's a move that you could do to another G5 that would really give you a better path to getting, a really high paying job at the P5, right?
Right, exactly.
I think you said millions more. That might be a little bit too much money if we're talking about going from one G5 to another. But yeah, like I'm sure there's a chance you could go from UTSA to USF or Tulane or Boise, and maybe you get an extra 50K, 100K or something like that. But it's probably, and I'm sure a lot of those guys do turn down opportunities like that. Like I saw, it was very interesting that Coach Traylor, when he was responding to Coach Burke's promotion, said he was one of the most loyal coaches that he's had. To me, that kind of implied that he had turned down some opportunities and had faith in Coach Traylor that he was going to get this promotion. So,
yeah, that is
just reading that's no inside info. I'm just reading between the lines because I know, like in my professional career, when I hear stuff like that, that's usually what it means. So,
the eyebrow raiser for sure. No, that's exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's truth in what he's saying. 100%. He wouldn't just say that, out of nowhere, right, willy nilly. So, no, yeah, I like the Graham call. I think he's definitely on his way out. It's like echoes of Coach Henney. Coach Henderson, you sent a couple guys to the league. I mean, it's pretty clear. Guys over there is special. He's got a hand in curating that talent. So, yeah.
I'd never even considered. That's a good point. I mean, Coach Graham could go to be coach in the NFL. Like, you never know.
Bro, 100%.
With the way Tariq's playing right now. All right. Well, moving off of the coaching news, UTSA did have a single transfer portal entry today on the first day of the transfer portal opening. And guys, don't take that for granted, man. That is crazy that only one guy went into the portal. Unfortunately, there's a guy that just did not work out at UTSA. Ty Edwards was one of the best JUCO running backs last year. At the time, UTSA had a massive need for running backs. This was before Traylon Smith committed a transfer from Arkansas. Kevorian Barnes was hurt at the time. I don't think they really knew what he was capable of. All those other running backs were hurt too. So they went and got Ty Edwards, and he was like the primary running back all throughout spring ball. But once the fall rolled around, Brandon Brady decided to come back in the program. Obviously, Traylon transfers in. Kevorian starts heating up, and Edwards just never really got a shot. He had some carries, and he didn't do too great in those limited opportunities. And, Justin Rodriguez, I think, might have ended the year with more carries than Ty Edwards did. So unfortunate. But with Kevorian emerging, I don't think it's going to hurt the depth at that position too much. D'Anthony Lewis will be coming back from his injury as well, and he's going to provide depth at that position. UTSA has already offered some running backs in the portal. They're going after a JUCO guy or two. So, writing goes on the wall here with Edwards. It seems like he never really fit in with the team. But, notable departure, frees up a scholarship for UTSA to use in this class.
Yeah, the room just got a little bit too full, I think, here for Ty Edwards. It's unfortunate. It was a guy that a lot of people had some hopes on coming in, but I never really found his groove and seemed to actually kind of get worse as the season went on. Just whether that was in between the ears or whatever, didn't really work out for him here. But yeah, I think UTSA is just fine at the running back position. So, it opens up. What does UTSA need to focus on when they direct their attention to the transfer portal?
That's a whole other podcast, dude.
Ooh.
You can't ask me that in the last minute of the podcast, man. It's too much. It's too much. But yeah, we do need to do a recruiting episode soon.
Yeah, no doubt.
Cool. Anything else before we sign off?
Oh, man, UTSA, dude, the back-to-back Conference USA champions right there, the Alamo Dome, won 2 championships in the Alamo Dome, the stadium that was built to bring San Antonio championship football. UTSA has done it twice now, back-to-back. Congratulations to the Roadrunners, Jeff Traylor. They deserve a river parade. Give it to them, San Antonio. Give it to them. Frank Harris, we love you.
No hell or high water, man. It's all love. Just let us know. Let us know.